I'm going to explain a horror show called Channel Zero, Butcher's Block. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. A police officer named Luke arrests a psychotic criminal and locks him in a cell with another prisoner. He then heads back to the streets to continue his patrolling duties for the day. Several hours later, when Luke returns to the station, he sees a spine-chilling sight. The psycho criminal is eating his fellow prisoner's organs and gasping in ecstasy.
Oh, was that the spleen?
It all started several weeks ago with Alice Woods, a young social worker who has just moved to Garrett, Texas. Her coworker Nathan gives her a brief rundown of the city's urban legends. He tells her about the infamous public space, Medallion Park, and the weird things that happen there. According to urban legends, a white marbled staircase can be seen in the park from time to time. Elderly people say that no one should ever go up the stairs. And that's not just because elderly people tend to eat shit on stairs. That evening, Alice and her drug addict sister Zoe drive to their new rental house. They soon arrive at the spot and meet their landlady Louise, who used to work as a reporter. It is revealed that she quit the job after her brother's disappearance. She now lives alone in a huge cottage-themed home full of taxidermy animals. The following morning, Alice is working out in her room when she suddenly gets a call from an unknown number. She picks it up only to hear the voice of her mother, who is currently in a mental hospital. The poor woman apologizes for her past behavior and begs Alice to take her away. Alice, who is clearly moved by her mother's pleas, hangs up without saying anything. A few hours later, Nathan drives Alice to her first clients, Tanya Marcus, and her young daughter, Isabel. He explains that the local authorities are removing Isabel from the home and warns that this case may get messy. On their way, the duo drives through a neighborhood named Butcher's Block. Nathan explains that the city was built around meat packing plants, owned by a rich businessman named Joseph Peach. He hated being named after a fruit, so he dedicated his life to meat. His workers lived in Butcher's Block, and everything was going well until one day, when Joseph suddenly disappeared. This caused the entire neighborhood to run out of work, and it was eventually shut down. Nathan warns Alice to never come down here alone during the day or the night. Shortly afterwards, the two social workers arrive at the Marcus household and enter. Nathan has a chat with Tanya and advises her not to resist the local authorities when they show up. Unbeknownst to everyone in the room, a young, bald, childlike person is watching them through a peephole in the wall.
Look, they have hairs.
Moments later, Alice visits Isabel's bedroom and finds her sitting on the floor. The little girl is wearing a red robe which has a tag with Smart Mouth written on it. Isabel claims that she found the robe on the playground in Medallion Park. She also reveals that when she gets scared, she hides under a huge ladylike tree in the park. As the two continue chatting, Alice's attention is diverted when she notices a hole in the wall. She hears strange noises coming from it, so she peers inside and immediately calls her colleague. Seconds later, Nathan comes into the room and Alice tells him that there's something inside the wall. They are about to examine it further when suddenly the bedroom door closes and locks. Things get even darker as the duo soon hears Tanya screaming, confused and anxious. Nathan breaks down the door and they run to the living room. They look all over the place, but there's no sign of the mother or the daughter. Following this weird encounter, the two social workers call the police. Luke Vansick, the lead officer from the local station, soon arrives at the house with his partner. He figures that Tanya left with her daughter before the authorities could take the girl. It is obvious that the officers don't see anything malicious in this case. That night, an increasingly anxious Alice figures that Isabel might still be hiding in her house. She tells Zoe about the case, and the two quickly drive to the Marcus household. As soon as they arrive, the sisters are welcomed by a mentally challenged local woman named Diane. Her hands are bloody, and she is holding a pair of scissors. Diane lunges forward without any warning and tries to jam scissors into Zoe's eye, but Alice pulls her off, and the siblings quickly run into the Marcus family home to hide. After searching the house thoroughly, Alice decides to go to the local park to check out the ladylike tree. Zoe, meanwhile, sits on the porch and passes the time by lighting a cigarette. However, shortly afterwards, she sees a child in a red robe running along the street. Zoe, remembering her sister's description of the little girl, assumes that the figure is Isabel. She starts to chase it, but the child rushes towards Medallion Park. On the other hand, Alice has already reached the park where she sees the ladylike tree. It is huge, and a creepy, crying face of a woman is drawn on its bark. There is also an old wooden shack nearby with children's toys and a hatchet inside. Alice is looking around the shack when suddenly a man steps out of the shadows. He introduces himself as Joseph and says his family used to own the park. Before Alice can ask any questions, the old man bids farewell and quietly walks away. On the other hand, Zoe follows the childlike figure into Medallion Park. She continues to run after it until they reach a long white marble staircase. This is when the figure turns around and we see that it is eating some animal. It is named Smart-Mouth and has a swollen baby-like face, which takes Zoe by surprise. Creeped out, she crawls backwards, and the Smart-Mouth advances on her. However, he stops seconds later when a twisted figure known as Pestilent God appears at the top of the stairs. Smart-Mouth then walks up the stairs and enters the door along with Pestilent God. A scared Zoe closes her eyes for a moment, but when she opens them again, the stairs are gone. The next morning, Zoe returns to the Marcus house and finds Alice waiting for her. The sisters hug each other and immediately go back to their rental home. There, Zoe vaguely tells her sister about what she saw in the park, but doesn't know if it's inside or outside of her head. Zoe then packs her things and declares that she is going to leave this godforsaken town forever. Alice desperately tries to stop her, but Zoe storms out with her suitcase. Moments later, Alice goes to Louise's study and apologizes for being loud. She explains to the landlady that her sister just left the house, but says that Zoe will be back soon. Trying to keep the conversation going, Alice inquires about the series of newspaper clippings pinned to a nearby notice board. Louise explains that these are reports about the various people who have gone missing from the town in recent years. In fact, the landlady suspects that one family is abducting all these people. She explains that the Peach family were reported to be missing in 1952, but Louise thinks some of them are still hanging around, killing innocent people. Suddenly, Alice's eyes fall on an old newspaper clipping where she sees the photo of Joseph Peach. To her utter horror, she realizes that this is the same man that she talked to last night. Elsewhere, Joseph approaches Zoe at a bus stop and introduces himself. It is evident that he has something shady in his mind. The next morning, Alice tells her landlady that Zoe saw something terrifying in Medallion Park, but wouldn't say what. The two then head to the spot and soon arrive at a playground in the middle of the establishment. There, Alice sees a red-robed, childlike figure running off at a distance. She thinks it might be Isabel and chases after it, leaving her landlady all alone. Shortly afterwards, Alice sees the child walking up to a man who is wearing a 1950s-style suit. She cautiously follows them only to see a mind-bending sight. A long marble staircase freely standing in the middle of the park. The child and the man then walk up the stairs before entering a door at the end. Confused and shocked, Alice approaches the staircase, but a high-pitched buzzing noise knocks her out. Sometime later, Louise wakes Alice up, and the duo returns home. To their utter surprise, they find Zoe standing in the conservatory wearing a distinctly 1950s dress. She claims that Alice doesn't have to worry anymore, as she has been cured. Meanwhile, near a local junkyard, Luke and his partner are on duty when suddenly Diane lands on the hood of their car. The poor woman is being harassed by a psychotic man who is wearing a 1950s-style suit. He's saying things like,
"Yeah, see? Get a load of this one, sweetheart."
Luke quickly shoves him to the ground, but the man continues to chuckle creepily. He reveals that his name is Robert Peach and that he plans to make a special project out of Luke. Nonetheless, the police officer takes Robert to the station and throws him in a cell along with another prisoner. Luke then heads out to track the lady who is being harassed earlier. He, unfortunately, doesn't find her and has to return back empty-handed. A shocking turn of events. Luke arrives at the station to a sight straight from a nightmare. He sees Robert completely naked, feasting on his fellow prisoner's liver with great pleasure.
It's better than the Great Gax.
Sometime later, a team of other officers and medics clean up the mess. Luke's father, who turns out to be the police chief, also arrives and informs him that they're going to send Robert for mental evaluation. However, that night, while Luke is returning back home after duty, he sees something shady. Two of the chief's closest officers escort Robert out to a civilian car. He follows them to Medallion Park, where the officers remove Robert's handcuffs, let him out, and drive away. Robert walks into the park like nothing happened, and a curious Luke follows him in. He soon reaches the playground and sees Robert walking up a long marble staircase along with another old man. Elsewhere in their house, Louise and Alice are having a conversation when they hear something break in the hallway. They quickly head to the spot, only to find an envelope on the table. Alice opens it, and we see that it is an invitation from the Peach family. She has been invited for dinner and drinks at the playground. At midnight, midnight. Louise and Alice arrive at the given spot and find a dining table set up. Joseph is seated there and invites the women to join him and the others. There are several meat dishes laid out, and a house suddenly appears around them. Almost immediately, Louise recognizes the people as members of the Peach family. Patriarch Joseph, elder son Robert, his wife Edie, his giant friend James, his brother Aldous, their grandmother Ruth, and Joseph's wife Evelina. Unfazed by all of this, Alice asks what happened to Zoe, but Joseph simply smiles at her. Then, all of a sudden, a gust of wind blows out the candles and the family disappears. A paralyzed Alice now finds herself sitting alone at the table with Joseph. He assures her that there will be no pain and minimal blood. He then takes out a drilling device and cuts into Alice's skull. Blood drips down onto her face as Joseph gives her a mirror and asks her to take a look. To her utter horror, Alice notices that a plate of her skull is missing, and she can peep into her own brain. Joseph, meanwhile, calmly probes into her brain and finds out a creepy mini-human named Mr. Schizophrenia. He warns her that if this wakes up, Alice will be mentally disturbed, just like her mother and sister. Nonetheless, Joseph invites Alice to come up the stairs and meet the family. He says that she and her sister remind him of his daughters before vanishing into thin air. Just then, the paralysis ends, and Alice discovers that her skull is intact. She's seated at the table in the middle of the playground, and everyone but Louise is gone. In front of her is maggot-infested meat of severed body parts, one of which is Tanya's severed hand. In the aftermath, both the women run away from the table and puke their guts out when they turn back. The table, the human flesh, and even the house have vanished without any trace. At home, Zoe is in the bathtub when Joseph suddenly appears there, sitting on the edge of the tub. He assures Zoe that he would never hurt her and she'll feel better if she eats something. As Alice and Louise leave the park, they come across Luke, who has been investigating the area. He openly admits that he saw a criminal walk up a long marble staircase last night. However, Alice, who is already too disturbed, pays no interest in this conversation and walks on. When the women arrive at the house, they find Alice's co-worker Nathan waiting for them. He says that she has missed work, but she ignores him and goes inside. Alice then rushes to her sister, who seems to be resting in the guest bedroom. Despite the hot weather, Zoe has the sheets and a blanket pulled up, which raises suspicion in Alice's mind. She yanks them down and discovers that Zoe's leg is profusely bleeding. The scene abruptly shifts to some time later, and we see that Zoe has been taken to a local hospital. Alice is by her bedside, while Nathan and the landlady are waiting at the room's door. Just then, Louise gets a call from Luke, who wants to meet her immediately. It turns out he too is visiting the hospital on some official work and is currently in the canteen. Thus, Louise and Nathan head downstairs to meet the police officer. Shortly afterwards, the duo meets Luke in the hospital cafeteria, and he begins to open up. He explains that his father's men set a killer free in Medallion Park last night. The criminal later walked up a staircase and vanished behind a door alongside an old man. Just as they are having a discussion, Robert arrives right outside the cafeteria. He sees them, but casually dances away like nothing weird is happening. Luke is stunned by the sight, so he draws his gun and immediately goes after the psychotic criminal. Upstairs, Alice and Zoe are having a conversation about the latter's state. She refuses to say what caused the massive wound in her leg, but through a flashback, we see that Zoe had cut into her thighs, picked a chunk of her own flesh, and hesitantly eaten it. Elsewhere, Luke, Louise, and Nathan are looking through the hospital for Robert, but they end up walking right into a trap set up by the criminal. Robert manages to separate Nathan from the rest of the group before swiftly slitting his throat. An incensed Luke then points his gun at the criminal and orders him down on the floor. Surprisingly, Robert complies and laughs like a maniac as he is handcuffed.
Yo, Shay! Yo, Shay! Yo!
On the other hand, Alice is also beginning to see all kinds of visions. She rushes out to the hospital's pharmacy and tries to look for benzodiazepine, a drug that has relaxing features. She soon returns, only to discover that her sister is gone. Instead, there is a note from Joseph on the bed that says Zoe has come upstairs and also urges Alice to join her sister. In the meantime, Luke drives to the police station with Robert in the backseat. The criminal whistles and stays calm as if he just didn't murder yet another human being. This pushes Luke over the edge, and he decides to take a radical step. He whips out the gun and shoots Robert several times in the chest. On the other hand, Alice has reached the playground in search of her sister. It doesn't take her long to find what she is looking for. She sees Joseph leading Zoe up the stairs and through the door at the end. With no other option, Alice climbs the stairs herself and enters the door and the
episode
episode
ends
on a
cliffhanger.
Videos like this.
Videos like this. Turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching.